Hi there. You are listening to ToRAISE Questions Doula podcast. This is Melanie Headley. I am sitting across the table from an amazing woman named Thérèse Hakoun. Hi.
Hi. I have a daughter named Amazing, so I'm not amazing. I'm ToRAISE. Sorry, everyone. I'm just a little whacked out.
Don't listen to her.
Yes.
ToRAISE is the executive director of ToLabor, which is an international doula training and certifying organization, which does, in fact, make her amazing. So anyway, ToRAISE, how are you? How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, we're both managing life as it comes to us, aren't we?
We are.
Yeah.
I'm coming off a really crazy month with births.
Yeah, lots of them. Busy, Melanie.
Busy. Yep. I set a new record for myself this month. I've had 9 births in 1 month, and I wouldn't recommend it.
No, it's really hard.
I'm not going to do that again.
No, I think I told you I think mine is 11 births in 17 days.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, it's just too crazy.
Too crazy.
It's fun and it's good. And then when you say, gosh, it's over, isn't that great?
Oh, well, now I have 1 left.
Yeah.
And so just feeling like I am only on call for 1 person rather than 7.
Right.
It's like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah. Sounds good.
But I did decide I'm going to get 1 at a time tattooed on my neck.
Yes, that's good.
Or maybe on my forehead.
Yeah. And do life, everyone. Don't have sex.
Right. So what are we going to talk about today?
I'm really excited. We have a guest who will be calling in, Cristin Pascucci, who is the founder of Birth Monopoly and the co-creator of Exposing the Silence Project. And we're going to have a conversation about this new and debate that's going on in ACOG. So really looking forward to this. I think everybody will be, she's a bright, very brilliant, articulate spokesperson, woman for this, for birth. So
I'm excited to talk with her again.
Yeah. Yes. So I'm really excited, Melanie. I know you are too, that we have a wonderful sponsor right now.
I am thrilled, over the moon.
So it is Latched Mama.
This local to Richmond company is amazing.
And they're international, though, as far as what their where their product can go.
Grown in Richmond, I should say.
Grown in Richmond, yeah.
They were grown in Richmond. And I've had I've been so fortunate to meet and encounter and to get to know Melissa Wirt, who owns Latched Mama and dreamed up this idea. And she's just such a phenomenal person.
She is. She's such a great person, and turning into an amazing businesswoman, which I think she probably already was, but I don't think she knew how.
Always with the baby on her.
That's
always
it.
with the baby on her chest.
And so what is Latched Mama?
So it is a beautiful line of nursing clothing. And, this wasn't around when I was nursing my own babies.
Me either.
I always had to be really tricky. I would wear a nursing tank and then another shirt. And so I would have to be hot with layers and pull it up and pull it down and then a nursing bra underneath. And now she's made these really, you should feel how soft and stretchy and thin
I
these
know.
shirts are. Oh, I sleep in one. I'm not even nursing a baby.
Right. I know.
But she makes these gorgeous dresses that it doesn't look like nursing
I
clothing.
know. I remember Melissa, which I gave her a little bit of a hard time. 1 week after her last baby was born, she has 3 kids. She was out at a function that we were all at.
Yeah, you have heard her voice
that's right.
on this podcast
That's
before.
right. She was at that RVA birth evening that we were podcasting from. Anyway, she had on a really nice dress.
She looked amazing.
She did. And it was a breastfeeding, one of her dresses.
She looked hot.
Yes. And, you can wear whatever you want when you're breastfeeding. But why her shirts, her sweatshirts, her
hoodies are so cute.
Yeah. The dresses are just really nice and so practical.
Yes.
So we are really happy to have Latched Mama as a sponsor of the podcast. You can look at their website at latchedmama.com. They have a very wonderful Facebook page as well, Facebook/Latched Mama.
And they're coming out with a periodical as well.
Yes, they're going to have a magazine.
Yeah.
They check out their clothing, pass it on to your clients, get involved in their Facebook page. They have a great blog also. So thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Latched Mama.
Hi, Cristin.
Hi, Cristin. This is ToRAISE.
And this is Melanie.
We are really excited to have you on the show today, and I think our listeners will be really glad to listen to you. Just to remind everyone again that Cristin is the founder of Birth Monopoly, which you can find online, birthmonopoly.org, or correct? .com. And
I'm sure org will get you there also.
Yeah. And then Cristin is the co-creator of Exposing the Silence Project, which so many of our listeners are aware of, but should absolutely check out if they have not looked at that project as well. And is that exposingthesilenceproject.org?
.com.
Sorry.
That's okay.
And Cristin, you're in Kentucky. Is that correct?
Yes, I am. Lexington, Kentucky.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the reason we were asking you to talk to us today and invited you just to have this conversation, no pressure on you as far as, feeling like you have to be the spokesperson right now, but more, we know your involvement, your advocacy is strong. You're involved in many of the maternal infant issues that are happening in this country and trying very strongly to work for the civil rights and the human rights of the birthing person out there. So this is specifically about the debate at ACOG's annual meeting that took place in May about whether all women should be induced at 39 weeks. And, to give the listeners an overview just real briefly, the current policy recommendation is that OBs, primary care providers, consider elective induction at 41 weeks and proceed with it at 42 weeks. And then there was a debate decided to be had at the conference where there would be two OBs that would discuss supporting 39 weeks, and the other was going to give 39 weeks induction, and the other person would come up with the opposite side, sticking to what was already had. And the surprise of it was the person who would be the supporter for the wait till 41, 42 weeks actually felt 39 weeks was the better choice. And so it has not become a policy, but it is something that has a lot of us who are working in the birth world and those who are birthing very concerned about the pressure that's already exists about inductions at 41 weeks, at 40 weeks, at 39 weeks, that if this were to go through, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. You were
Please.
about to ask a question. I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, go.
Well, I was just going to say, when you said it hasn't become policy, well, so this is like the rub. Like this is the whole issue with American maternity care is it doesn't have to become policy. It doesn't have to become a guideline for all kinds of people to willy-nilly decide to do it. And that's what's kind of scary when you looked at. They did sort of like a pre-test, post-test, or I'm misstating that. They asked after the presentation, the room, if anyone had changed their mind about the topic, and the majority of people had changed their minds and said, yeah, it sounds like it is a great idea.
And can I
39 weeks.
Can I give those statistics? It's before the debate, 63% were opposed, 20% supported it, and 17% were unsure. At the end of the debate, 70% supported the idea, 20 21% remained unsure and 9% were against it. So it was a huge impact and
huge change.
Yes.
Yeah. And just to give people some context, these are, this is the annual conference for obstetricians where there's a large number of them who are motivated enough to go to the conference in this room. And then it's, it's also on video and, people are tweeting out information from the conference. And so it's got some weight.
Right.
As far as, among the obstetrician population.
Right. So I hear what you're saying. And I think, this went through my mind when I was reading all of this, that but you're confirming it doesn't really need to be a policy. That if 70% supported
right.
the idea, that could mean that 70%, those individuals can go back to their practice now and say, hey, 39 weeks, we had a discussion about it. I heard the evidence. I think, I'm not opposed to inductions that much anyway. Why are we waiting? Why are we taking this risk? So I guess it's like ripping the cover off of my eyes right now. Like I'm thinking, well, we got to go through the policy statements and all those things, but this could just have an immediate impact on the person who is due right now. They're at 38 weeks and their care provider could come back and say, well, I think we need to do this. The evidence shows blah, blah, blah.
Well,
blah,
and
blah.
we all know, even with the 42-week guideline that's out there,
right,
that really means 41.
Right.
So it's very rare to actually get to that 42-week without being at least very, very, very pressured.
Yeah. And, I want to quote the one doctor was Dr. Norwitz, who was right from the beginning a supporter of the induction at 39 based on his belief and his evidence. And he said, quote, there is no benefit to the fetus waiting beyond 39 weeks in well-dated pregnancies. That's one thing. And then his next statement is the one that just blows my mind. Quote, nature is a terrible OB, unquote.
I know. I kind of had the same reaction. And I said, well, based on this, I would say some obstetricians are terrible obstetricians.
Yes.
Like this is really kind of scary. As I commented to the reporter who did the story on this in the Washington Post this week, along those lines is these guys have such a small window on what the relevant factors are, and I think they were looking exclusively at stillbirth rates, or almost exclusively at stillbirth rates. And I don't think and this is one of the big issues, nobody would even think to go to a woman and say, what issues does this bring up for you? So what do you think about when you hear, a 39-week induction? Because then you might hear things like, oh my goodness, well, I don't want my baby to be in the NICU. I don't want to be separated from my baby.
Right.
I don't want to have breastfeeding difficulties. I don't want a higher chance of a C-section. I don't want to increase the odds that I will have postpartum depression. There's all these other factors.
Right.
That it's so mind-blowing really is the word,
that those other factors are being ignored.
Well, yeah, that's the arrogance of not even considering that there might be other factors that they aren't aware of.
Right, right. And also, I guess the big question is, what I was going back to when it said nature is a terrible OB, well, one thing that went through my mind was, well, nature isn't a terrible OB. It's kind of like what you said, there are terrible OBs, but OBs have nothing to do with nature. So it's it's like comparing, it's like a terrible analogy, but he gets away with it.
Right.
But induction.
I think maybe what he meant was nature is a terrible midwife, which would make more sense. But I also don't necessarily agree with that statement. But it was a very, I guess what's funny about it is that it just sort of assumes that obstetricians are the gatekeepers on childbirth.
Exactly.
Well, that is
and that we can't trust nature.
Yeah. And that
right.
What you said in the article in the interview with the Washington Post is something that I talk about at workshops, and I talk to the person themselves who is pregnant. That, one of the things I say is, all through this pregnancy, you and your body alone and your baby have been doing this together, and everything has been going really well. You're doing an awesome job, you and your baby, coming into this world, into this life and growing. And yes, you go for your prenatal checks, which is great. They're checking in on you, but they're not making it happen one way or the other. You're doing this. And so please, in the last hours of your pregnancy, the last weeks, the last hours of your pregnancy, do not think that suddenly your body is going to turn on you and become the enemy to this baby. You've been doing this. You are the reason this baby exists. And the message that I think you were saying also is it's the total opposite, what they are then saying.
Yeah. I'm just so sick of that. I have so many friends and family members, who share with me their stories, their birth and pregnancy stories. And I get so sick of hearing women so actively disempowered and made to feel afraid about their own bodies.
Yes.
And the babies that they're going to be responsible for the next, 20 something years or, even longer.
Forever.
It's so right. To me, it's just it blows my mind that people think it's okay to act like, I'm sorry, I've got a 4-year-old here who's
totally get it.
Did I warn you about this?
No, but we know it, so no worries.
It's life.
He's like, oh, Mom's getting excited about something. I should go interrupt.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Yep. Okay.
Well, it's the whole not trusting nature to do its job, and then intervening, not trusting nature to intervene. As an OB would, and then just shifting the whole mindset around birth, and just like you said, disempowering women and making them afraid, and not connecting with their bodies or their pregnancies and trusting it.
So fear does not improve health outcomes.
No.
I don't know why. It seems to be like this go-to of oh my goodness, we better scare people into complying.
Because it does promote control.
It does,
mm-hmm.
yeah. But it's also, it's the opposite of what we know promotes good health outcomes.
Absolutely.
And so it's not just frustrating; it's also harmful.
It is harmful. Well, and when this was reported and this is out there, I was doing more research around the whole topic and looking at, they have the evidence that I haven't looked at, but looking at my own things. And very quickly, I pulled up this study that was about molecular mechanisms within fetal lungs initiate labor. And, we know that the baby is the one who triggers the labor, and that the baby will release these proteins to activate the genes inside of the fetus's lungs, and near full term, leading to this is what it says, leading to an inflammatory response in the mother's uterus that initiates labor. So we know nature actually does do this. And we don't know, though, what day that baby will do that. And for this obstetrician, or these obstetricians to say that nature is a bad OB or that nature can't be trusted takes away from science. I mean, I know that the guy, and I don't have his name in front of me, the doctor who was surprised by his turn of thoughts in the debate because of the evidence.
I think it's Lockwood.
Yeah, his evidence, whatever he looked at, supported it. And like you said, I think it was based on stillbirths. And the other...
Oh, which, by the way...
Yes, go ahead.
Nobody ever shared the absolute risks, which is a really important set of numbers.
So clarify that.
I remember when I hit 41 weeks pregnant, and I was hearing, you may need to be induced. If you don't have this baby soon, you're gonna have to be induced, blah blah blah. And at no point was I ever given a set of numbers that said, here is the risk.
Right.
You have this X risk of stillbirth at 40 weeks, you have Y risk of stillbirth at 41 weeks, and at 42 weeks, it goes up to, Z.
Right.
I think those numbers are really important. And I think people forget that those numbers even exist. They just hear something like, it's more likely that your baby is going to die. And that's a really powerful and dramatic statement. And when you actually look at the numbers, like any other time that you actually, use facts and information to make decisions.
Right.
It's really, I don't know. I think it makes you feel better about it.
Well, it's like, go ahead.
Excuse me.
Rebecca Decker?
Well, Rebecca listed, Rebecca Decker of Evidence-Based Birth, who's a good friend of mine and a partner in all of this. She was interviewed extensively about this article in the Washington Post about the 39-week induction thing, and she listed out the actual numbers, which were at 40 weeks, the risk of stillbirth is 0.42 per 1,000. At 41 weeks, it goes up to 0.61 per 1,000. And then at 42 weeks, it goes up to 1.08 per 1,000. Mm-hmm. At 39 weeks, I should have included that one. It's 0.35 per 1,000. So you've got these really teeny little numbers. It's not like your baby has a 10% chance of dying.
Right. Well, it goes to like the same statistics. They don't give the statistics. It goes to the same message that goes out there for the people who are attempting VBACs. We know that spontaneous labor with causing a uterine rupture is less than 1%. It's a half of 1%. But the way it's put out there, it's made to sound like it's is 50% or more of these people are going to have a uterine rupture.
Yeah. And even using words like small or large, I think is misleading. I mean, and I just did that myself, as a second ago, said it's such a tiny little risk. But it's not really for me or you to decide whether that is a small or large risk to anyone else.
I agree.
Maybe has a history of stillbirth.
Right.
And looks at that and goes, absolutely not. I don't want even the tiniest.
Totally agree with you. Mm-hmm. Right.
In the chance.
It's about transparency.
Absolutely go with an induction. And that is a totally valid choice.
Right.
There are all kinds of reasons why one person might look at, a couple of those numbers and compare them and think very different things about them. And they have the right to do that.
Right. I agree. It's really good calling me out on that, and as well as yourself. I
didn't mean to call you.
No. I think it's I meant that appreciatively. I think it's really important that we really do look at it that way, because somebody could say, yeah, I know the risk is small, but if it happens to me, it's 100%. And I've had rare things happen to me before, and I'm not willing to take that risk. But what I hear you saying from this, which I can totally agree with, is let them know what those real true numbers are,
Right.
not just blanket it in a statement that there is a greater risk for a stillbirth at this time.
And let us make the decision for you.
Right, because sometimes, the reaction to some of these, ridiculous pronouncements is, oh, give me a break, that's totally safe. That's, what a ridiculous thing to say, when in fact it's not true to say that's totally safe.
Exactly.
There is a slight increase, but we need to know about that, and we don't need to have it exaggerated or minimized or characterized any other way than here are the actual numbers. You can figure this out for yourself.
And I think, it goes back to this, that if there is a blanket statement which is what was, the statement at the end that went out there was that all women should be induced at 39 weeks if there is a well-dated pregnancy. So that goes also to the other thing.
That's a big if.
Well, it is. And this is something I've talked about for over 20 years. And I've been doing this random unscientific research project, which I do many of them in my workshops. And, I've taught over 4,000 people. I've had this conversation for over 20 years and do these things about due dates. And, I know we've changed up how due dates are now designated, but the original and still go-to original dating is based on the last menstrual period. And when I do these unscientific research projects, I ask about people's cycles, and I ask honestly if you know when you actually had, when was the first day of your last menstrual period, and that's a huge number of people who don't know. And then I ask about irregular cycles, and there's so many people who have irregular cycles. And then I ask about how many of you have a less than 28-day cycle, anywhere from 21 to 27-day cycles, and all these hands will go up. And then I ask how many have a 29 to 35 to 45, 50-day cycle, and an overwhelming number of hands will go up. And then I ask how many have a 28-day cycle. And I will tell you, in 20 years of doing this, the overwhelming most common menstrual cycle is the super long one. What comes in second is the shorter one, and the middle one, the 28-day, is the least common of all of this. And again, this is not based in science. This is based in my hands-on experience. But what it says to me is right from the beginning, we don't have accuracy at all on that. And then the due date being backed by the ultrasound, when you read about it, but this is still plus or minus 2 weeks. The best ultrasound is the super early one, 8 to 10 weeks, 12 weeks. And then after that, it becomes less viable. And the majority of people are not having ultrasounds, at least a lot of them, at 8 to that early first trimester, because they're not aware that they're pregnant yet. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to figure out if insurance is going to cover the care provider for them to see. So they get the ultrasound at 20 plus weeks. When it's documented, it is not as reliable as a source. So for them to say
a well-dated
is like, okay, 39 weeks means we could be off by 2 weeks, so your baby at least would be term. It would be a 37-week baby, we hope.
Yeah.
But again, that's not the discussion that is out there. It's more 39 weeks and a well-dated pregnancy, which just is assumption that everybody has a well-dated.
Right.
Right. It's based on a really big fallacy in the first place.
Right.
That we can well-date pregnancies, or that pregnancies are well-dated, are generally well-dated.
Exactly. Exactly. And also, even if they are well-dated, it's still the baby who decides it's time to be born. And, one of the things that this doctor who said nature was the bad OB, which I keep saying terrible OB, was, that he feels that the large number of zygotes that never, it's based on the large number of zygotes that never implant, the 75% loss before 20 weeks, and stillbirths. And when you brought up Rebecca, one of the things she says is that, stillbirths are horrible and nobody wants a stillbirth, and that there are about 25,000 stillbirths a year. And of course, this is of great concern, but that more than half, about half of the stillbirths occur between 20 and 27 weeks. So right there, this induction thing is not going to change anything with that.
Right. It's like, if we could induce people at, 10 weeks, then
why bother?
Really still worth
Exactly.
It's just it sounds to me like another attempt to put women in this mass of, likewise situation. So if well dated, we've already have put the number 28 days cycles, everyone should be around that. Well, Therese, you've just proven that's completely not true, just in your own little study. And it's another way to just lump women together and make it easier for the provider and not treat women or pregnancies as individual.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, and I don't think there was any grand design here. I think it was actually my biggest issue with this whole thing is that I feel like it was thoughtless and irresponsible.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't devious.
Right.
But that's where the harm comes in from, thoughtless, even hypotheticals, which these guys may think that they're talking hypotheticals. But the reality is people walked out of that room going,
yes,
I think this is a great idea.
Yes.
And, we've got so many people who, we already know that women, by and large, really don't have choice about what happens in their birth.
Right.
It's just the reality that the provider, by and large, determines what interventions you get and don't get. Yeah. And so for, I think one of the ACOG physicians made a comment towards the end about, of course it's going to be up to women. No, it's not up to women.
I know.
That's absolutely not an of course. That's no, not even remotely close to of course. That's really what's kind of so scary is, and if you put it in a sort of a historical framework, that is another thing that is just so makes you want to beat your head against the wall of, haven't we already done this, guys? Come on now, experiment after experiment after experiment that hasn't turned out very well.
Right.
And we just keep throwing them at women.
Well, and
let's try this next, even when we do have proven best practices. We know what some of those are, and we absolutely haven't implemented them.
Right. And I think what this did, just the mere fact that it was something that they decided to have a debate about at a national gathering of their members, says this is something that, and I agree with you, we don't have to present it as something devious. I think it's clear cut. I think the presentation, why was this presentation even done? I mean, who
knows?
But I think
they might have just thought it was going to be fun.
Well, no, I think
there's going to be two different sides.
I think but the fact that
But then there weren't.
Right, there weren't, but also I think it was because there were enough people who are providers who, induce regularly and also deal with pregnant people who are in many, many cases asking to be induced, wanting to be induced without understanding the repercussions of that, what they are really asking for or agreeing to, and they hear a lot of discomfort, I'm miserable, I wish this pregnancy could end, I just can't wait. All of those things can be then, in the psyche of the care providers, well, yeah, let's look into this. Let's move forward with this discussion. It gives many permission to satisfy their own practice and satisfy what they perceive is the need of the woman who is not content with how the pregnancy is lasting thus long, which is a whole nother conversation I could have about that whole thought. But I hear you when you say, Cristin, that it is in the end the consumer's choice. It's that we know in reality what you just said. It really isn't the consumer's choice. But that goes to kind of our wrapping this up, which we could keep talking about for a long time and go off into many other things. What is your input currently? That the listener, who are many and most doulas, and then we have nurses on here, and we have parents, we have childbirth educators, we have some midwives and some OBs. We have a whole slew of people who are listening. What can they do? What can the consumer do to be not coerced into this if that's what they're facing? Or is there a possibility of getting this changed in the psyche, like going back to the 63% who were opposed before they heard this conversation? You have any thoughts or any suggestions?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any way to put the horses back in the barn. Is that the expression?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But I guess just from an individual standpoint, I would say two things. Consumers need to know their rights, that they have an absolute, unequivocal right to say no.
Yes.
Regardless of the reasons, they don't need to prove their case. They don't need to sell it. They have a right to say no for any reason or no reason. Now, that said, I think it would be very, that's not the best way to communicate with your, the care provider who you're trusting to take good care of you. I think having an honest, open, compassionate, respectful conversation is the way to go. And while understanding that, even if you can't can't get on the same page with each other, you do have that absolute right to say no. But, I think if it were me, I would just say, listen, there haven't been any studies on this. You're essentially asking me to participate in a giant unofficial experiment, and I'm not going to put myself through that. I think more that's than happy good. In 5 years, if some sort of randomized controlled trial has been done and shows the benefits of this, I will be more than happy to sign up for that induction. But today, based on this, I can't take that chance. But also, keep in mind that what the conclusion that these guys reached is contrary to a whole body of evidence.
Right.
So it's not as if, it's not as if you're on your own here. There's a giant body of evidence showing the opposite conclusion of what these guys came to. So I don't think it would be a stretch at all to say, look, this is a blip on the radar as far as the advancement of medical research, and I'm not gonna, we're not gonna put our lives on the line because of this blip.
I think you hit the points perfectly, and that I agree with you, and I like the idea that you can just say no and not defend it, not have to justify it in any way, but the better way to come about it is, like you said, have a dialogue with the provider. And I would add in there what you were putting in there at the end. There is a lot of evidence to the contrary that I think the consumer has to be aware of, and that may be a role of our listeners to help with. But it is really, in the end, the consumer who has to present themselves as, if they're going to really make that not be intimidated and bullied, is to show the evidence that supports their decision-making process. And I like a lot what you said, Cristin, about saying, I am not willing to be part of this experiment. And because that is putting it totally where it is, and it's I didn't agree to it's not an official study. I'm not agreeing to this study. I'm not wanting to be a part of this experiment or my baby. And I'm refusing to do this. Let's carry on unless you can give me a really good medical indication for my baby that there is a problem, not based on what you read in some studies about other possibilities. And going back to those numbers, those percentages, and being clear on what those percentages really mean as far as risk to them. Those risks also, are there comorbidities that increase that? And then one last thing, comparing it to, if I do this and I'm induced, what are the risks about that induction? Because that wasn't even discussed. I mean, they brought up the cesarean. Yeah. They brought up the cesarean. They discounted that there's an increase in cesareans with an induction. But, we just posted a report that was the total contrary of that there is an actual increase.
Yeah, they didn't like parse out the data.
No.
They just looked at sort of overall numbers.
Yes.
And they didn't look at who, like, that statement isn't true for all of the groups.
Right.
When you look at an average, you might make a statement like that, but it doesn't make sense. That's not true. The numbers are different if you're low risk or you're high risk or you have, certain risk factors. So, you just kind of come back to the idea of individualized care. For me,
yes.
Yep.
Is there an increased risk or a decreased risk?
Exactly.
Or, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Talk to me, meet me where I am, and talk to me about me and my baby and at my situation, and give me all the risks and benefits, and let me see the evidence, and let me show you the evidence, and then let me make an informed decision based on all of that about me, not about everybody else. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
yeah, we deserve that.
Yes, we do. But
your baby deserves that.
Yes. Well, that's what I always come back to.
If you can't do it for yourself,
do it for your baby. Well, that's what I think of all the time, is that, and it's a hard one because I never want anyone to feel guilty at all, because we're all full of guilt. When you become a parent, it just is one of the things you get. But we do have to remember there's a baby involved in this, and that's what the OB will say. You don't. We want a healthy baby at the end of this, but it's looking at the broader picture. So, Cristin, I just want to thank you for just sharing your time and your thoughts, and tell your 4-year-old and your other. That's your only one, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yep.
That we appreciate. Yeah, we appreciate you, him giving you some time, and we want to point. Go ahead.
Sorry. I just thought of one more thing. ACOG's ethics committee just came out with another statement on
coercion,
the right to refuse recommended medical treatment.
Absolutely.
So just to anyone who may be thinking they might have to have a conversation with their care provider about any of this, if you are looking for evidence to support your position, that ethics committee statement is out there, and it very clearly states
that's
that
absolutely
have the right to say no.
Yes, and
if you want to see that, it's on my website, on my blog. It's birthmonopoly.com/no, N-O. It links right to, I did wrote it up and then linked to the statement.
Great.
If you want to easily find it.
Yes, and it's awesome. Yes, we posted that on our Facebook page as well when it came out, and it is it is the most important thing to remember. That goes back to the right of the patient to be able to refuse. So thanks for all the work you're doing. Thanks for this time for the Birth
Cristin.
Monopoly, for the Exposing the Silence Project. We're not silent. I have never been, but we're not going to be silent anymore. So take care. Have a great outdoor rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Okay.
Thanks to your listeners.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Take care. Bye.
Well, that was great. Short, I know. We all have a lot to say about that.
Going.
Yeah, but we just wanted to really discuss this topic and get it out there. I think many of the listeners are already aware of this happening, but really felt compelled to not just us talk about it, but Cristin really is so involved in this as an advocate for rights and just really pleased that she was able to discuss with us this situation. Check out her information, as she mentioned in her conversation, her websites.
And it's Cristin Pascucci, birthmonopoly.com.
Right. And also, if you are not aware of the Exposing the Silence Project, check that out as well, exposingthesilenceproject.com, and check out tolabor.com and our Facebook page, and join us in a workshop as well. So thanks, everybody, for listening. Have a great day.